You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, who have been telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com, and then definitely follow them on Instagram for all the information that you need, because I'm sure that's where you follow us as well, at oklahomahof. Let's get into today's episode.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode up in Stillwater, Oklahoma today. I've really been looking forward to this episode. I know we've been trying to do it for a long time. You guys have been super busy. COVID happened, all the rest of it. But on the podcast with me today, I have Bobby Wintle and Sally Turner, which you guys like. I was just talking to Sally, Bobby, before you showed up about me winning the raffle this year.
Yes.
Which was insane.
Yeah.
Like, almost to the point where I'm like, thanks for doing that, but also I hate you so much. Because now I have to train for a race that I still haven't trained. I really need to start training.
You can run. You can do the.
I want to do.
Okay.
No, I need to do the bike.
You're not doing the double? Wow.
Yeah, loser.
That's what everybody's doing.
I know, yeah. But no, what we are talking about obviously is the Mid-South. We're in Stillwater. But, before we get into talking about that race and what it's become, tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you are in Stillwater today.
Let me go. All right. And to my left. Well, I may be known to tell pretty lengthy stories, so I won't do that right now.
My battery on the camera's going. So
it's going. Okay.
Plenty of time.
I'm not from Oklahoma. I'm not from Stillwater in any way. I have no connection to this town before I moved here, and had no connection to the town. And so basically fell in love with the idea of entrepreneurship when I was 18. Mm-hmm. I was working at a coffee shop. 17, 18, I was working at this coffee shop that moved into a brand new building downtown because we had a tornado rip through my town when I was a freshman in high school. And so they got all this incentive money and went big. They went big all the way. Restaurant, bar, underage drinking, lots of tax problems through this place. The coffee was wonderful. The grilled cheese sandwich with 4 different cheeses and bacon was awesome. Like I said, I tell very long stories.
I'm imagining that grilled cheese.
It was very good. We can order Uber Eats at any moment during this podcast. Also, it is a technology that exists.
That would be a first.
I like doing things first a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, I fell in love with it there, and I'm from Parsons, Kansas. So I was born and raised Parsons, Kansas, 9,000 people, southeast Kansas. It's the corner. It's really close to Joplin, Missouri by an hour. And anyway, by the time I was 20, this idea of doing things kind of on my own terms, potentially, creating community, creating connection, creating a space for people to feel very comfortable, very alive, and allowing that to grow organically was something that I knew I wanted to be a part of, whether it was through music or because I was a musician for a long time. I still play music, but that was really the vein that I thought I was going to head in. Mm-hmm. But I'd written this business plan for a coffee shop. And then I met who became my wife, Crystal, and she had wanted the same since she was 8 years old. She's from the same area, but we didn't meet all this time because we grew up 8 miles apart. She went to the rival high school. She had moved to Emporia, Kansas to go to college, and I was going to community college in Parsons at Labette Community College, LCC. And anyway, we met while she was home over Thanksgiving break in 2004. And then immediately, long distance relationship for a year and a half. Talked about how we knew we wanted to own our own business someday. Mm-hmm. And for me, it had been very new, but for her, it had been in her mind for a really long time. So we wrote a business plan for a coffee shop. After a year and a half of long distance dating, I moved to Emporia and we got married. And then we were just food industry, coffee, all this sounds like something that we don't really know anything about. Yeah. But she had gotten me into riding bikes, and I had been running very terribly for a long time. And so you're a runner? Are you a runner?
No.
Okay.
No,
Well,
I just force myself to do things that I really don't want to do, but we grow, don't we? So that's why I run, is because I want to do things that I never think I can do.
Absolutely.
So that's why I did the race last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear about this. So, I moved up there in 2006, and that was the same year that the DK 200 started. Unbeknownst to us, we didn't know there were 34 people behind a hotel. The story, the legend has it, and we didn't become involved really with the bike shop scene until 2007. I begged for a job at High Gear Cyclery because I was working on bikes at our apartment and in our basement, and I was working for contractors while I was finishing school. So I was doing like cabinet building and doing all sorts of flipping houses, roofing houses, siding, sheetrock, plumbing, like you name it, we were doing it. But the whole time I was falling way deeper in love with bikes, way, way, way deep. And this idea that we could open a bike shop somewhere.
Yeah.
So 2008, before I even had a job at High Gear, I called Trek and said, hey, like obviously I know you're one of the top 3 biggest brands in the world. I called the local rep, so I was calling Wade, who's the Midwest rep, and I just said, hey man, we're building this business plan. I've fallen in love with bikes. Crystal got me into it. This is who we are. I'm on like the very slow, very terrible mountain bike race team that's out of High Gear. I'm begging for a job, but we're building this business plan and we want to open a shop and we want to do it with your brand because it's all encompassing, kids bikes all the way to the top. And we just said, we'll go anywhere. And I wasn't thinking about him looking in his backyard territory. I was just thinking like, they'll know where the open markets are. I was 2008. I was 23.
Yeah. No kids at this point?
No.
Yeah.
Nope. 22. I was 22, almost 23. And so then he said the first thing out of his mouth was Stillwater, Oklahoma. He was like, Stillwater, Oklahoma. And unbeknownst to him, the day before that, it was February of 2008, I had met up with my friends who used to go to school in Stillwater. They live in southern Oklahoma now in Ardmore, and we're very, very good friends. So Crystal and I drove from Emporia to Stillwater just to hang out with them for Valentine's Day and just have a blast and just do whatever. And we didn't go see the other bike shop here in town, Cooper's. We didn't know anything about the dirt roads. We didn't know anything about campus. We just stayed the night in a hotel, went out to eat, drove home. Next day, called Trek. Next day, they were like, Stillwater. And I was like, dude, you have no idea what you just said to me. I was literally there 24 hours ago. And I have no other connection besides my friend who used to go to school here. And so then the process began that Trek was like, we really like this idea. We know you have no experience, but we can tell that you're driven, blah, blah, blah. We'll hold the market. Because they said that people were looking at opening a shop here from Minneapolis to Dallas. But like, really, truly, what was that really like? We don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, wrote the business plan for 3 years. Originally called the bike shop Bike Love, because we love people and we love bikes, and like it made sense at the time in our brains. But we decided
was the logo a peace sign?
The logo was not anything like heart-shaped bicycle wheels. It was nothing like what people think. It was going to be clean. We had a whole Urban Outfitters kind of like design-esque idea of cleanliness, and now Urban Outfitters may be a different thing a decade later, but at the time it was very clean, very put together, very nice retail experience. So anyway, Bike Love did not come together, and we were trying to find like a district in town because we didn't know Stillwater to name the shop after, like an area of town. Sure. You know, like I mean,
like some of the drinks are whatever.
Yeah. And you're from
Wales.
You're from Wales. Okay, so like there are districts within the city that are named after people or places or things, and it's like we wanted to really tie in and give a name to a place.
Right.
We couldn't find one because, well, there aren't any in this town. This is very much a small town with this insane thing attached to it that is OSU. And so we just thought, well, let's just create our own district, and like we'll just call it district in its own right, and we'll build our own community. And that's where the name came from. So anyway, lots of ups and downs, crazy, way more detail. But finally, the first week of September of 2011, we sold our house in 24 hours, all on our way down here with our daughter Emery, who was 1 at the time. She turned 1 on August 31st. And we moved down here not knowing a soul. And then by October 27th, 2011, we were open on a Wednesday. Yeah.
That's impressive.
And also, like, the whole time before we came, I knew I was watching what was happening with DK. And the whole thing with DK was that, you know, by the time of 2010, there were 500 people on Commercial Street in downtown. And I was, like, this is unbelievable. There are 500 people on bicycles attempting a 200-mile race today, right now, downtown. And so I thought, there needs to be a 100-mile event in the spring. There has to be one. There isn't one. If we're moving to Oklahoma, which is the plan, and we get there and the dirt roads are tight, then we'll do it.
Yeah.
And so that was the precursor. So we had the idea for the race before the shop was even open.
Yeah.
But we had no name, we had no idea, we had no course, we didn't even know if the dirt roads were cool.
Right.
And now we know that
you have this monster now.
it's
in your
amazing.
hands, yeah.
Mid-South is incredible.
For those listening, what Bobby means by DK is the Dirty Kansas, which is like the daddy of gravel races, isn't it?
And they're going through a name change right now.
Are they really?
Yes, they are.
Following suit to you guys then.
They are. And, we actually we shouldn't go there.
Let's leave that.
That's off
Sally,
the
what
record.
about
It's off
you?
the table.
It's up to them to figure it out.
So Sally, how did you get here?
So I am, first of all, my story is not nearly as long or long time coming as Bobby's is, but I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I didn't come very far. It's about 60 miles that way. So my husband works for the shop.
Okay.
And he came here for school. I was going to study something else. My degree's in journalism now, but I was thinking about being a nurse. And my first day of dosage calculation, where they teach you how to, appropriately draw up syringes and stuff, our teacher said, "You're not careful, you could kill somebody." And I was like,
it's all for me.
I do not need that kind of responsibility in my life. So I finished the semester, went back to Tulsa, moved back in with my parents, went to community college, and then came here to study English. Quickly realized that I couldn't get a job without going into massive debt and getting, 10 more years of school. So turned to journalism, really enjoyed that for a while, and then kind of realized it maybe wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And then after working a couple of kind of jobs trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I finally was like, "Hey, Bobby, let me help with this race that you have." I had always kind of volunteered or been involved before and kept kind of pestering him, and Crystal would be like, "Hey, this is getting big. Y'all need some help organizing. I can just see that." So
She's also raced and finished in one of the hardest years that we ever had in 2016.
Yes, 2016. It took me 12 hours, which
doesn't matter.
Better than half the field that didn't.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Apparently carried my bike for 10 miles through the mud, which was wild and kind of blurred together.
Yeah.
But really enjoyed it, obviously. And then, so this will be my third.
Is that right?
Now I don't know.
I think it's third actually on staff event. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, this will be my third.
So does the love of bikes for you come from your husband?
Actually, it comes from my granddad. He was a big cyclist, and he did the cross state tours, freewheel, and the Brat bike ride across Tennessee. And I didn't ever get to ride with him really, because I just really didn't get into cycling until he was too old to really do that, and kind of bummed about that now that we didn't get to share that. But I always thought it was a cool thing to do. I remember going to an athletic shoe store with my brother who was getting basketball shoes, and I was like, I wonder if they have any bike shoes. And I'm 6, so I don't even know what bicycle shoes are. But I just wanted shoes that worked really well on my pink and white, Huffy or whatever. And now here I am owning 5 pairs of cycling shoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I started riding in college, just to class, and actually on my grandma's old bike, which was a fun kind of little piece of history to carry with me. And then Austin, my husband, started working at the shop very shortly after you guys opened. I think that's the spring
months,
after,
7 months, yeah.
And I think the rest is history.
Yeah.
We just got really hooked.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of found the love together. From my perspective, he dove in obviously from the mechanic side, but then you were riding and just obviously paying attention from the outside of this behemoth thing that was growing. Yeah.
It's great, and I love it.
And then, Bob, when you came here, you just dove into the community and were finding out was there a big bike community? I mean, I'm sure there was a core group here that knew where the roads were, right?
No,
there was not. There was nothing.
There
was no gravel cycling.
Nobody knew about these amazing roads.
I will say this with all humility.
Yeah.
That there were people. There was no community built around the idea of riding dirt.
There was no 6 o'clock ride on Wednesday, whatever.
There was a 6 o'clock ride on Tuesday evening from Cooper's on the pavement to the Am Pride at Perkins and back on 177 every Tuesday. And potentially maybe some group rides on Saturday, but it was all kind of oriented around pavement. Yeah. And also we've got some really great mountain bike trails at McMurtry, so that the first week I was here, one of the first things I did was go on that group ride on Tuesday, the road one, on my gravel bike, and I got made fun of for my tire size. And they were like, "What are you going to do? Ride in the ditch?" And I was like, "I will ride in the ditch if you want me to do that." But then I can ride in the ditch. I shall ride. And my Gary Fisher Presidio. I missed that bicycle very much. It was very sick. And anyway, I found out about trail work. They were doing trail work on the Orange Trail at McMurtry that Saturday, and I showed up and there were all these preconceived notions of who I was and what I was doing. And then when they realized that I was a 26-year-old kid, they were just like, "You're opening a bike shop?" And they were like, and then, dude, I mean, I'll just be totally honest with you. Like, people came in, multiple people, not a lot, but a handful of people came in and literally to my face, when no one else was there, told me that we would never make it, that this town could not support what we were trying to make happen. Like, they were like, another bike shop will never make it against Cooper's, against this other shop, which, just to be totally frank and open, and I do not see other bike shops, period, in this town or other towns as competition. Cycling in the United States is way too small for us to believe that we are at competition with each other. We need to, the tide must rise and all boats will rise with it, and also all communities will be better. So anyway, man, there wasn't a community riding dirt roads until we got here, and it took me quite a while to find them. And I mean, I really do think it was spring of 2012 where, I mean, there's this whole story about my daughter just never slept ever. Like for 2.5 years, I don't think she slept. I think it's what has helped me and Crystal both train to be endurance cyclists and you know, to ride 300 miles with no sleep, which we've both done multiple times. And I promise it's because of Emery. Thanks, Emery. I really appreciate you. Yeah. And anyway, I would wake up at 2-3 o'clock. She would never go back to sleep, and I'd put her in the car and I would drive. And so anyway, I went west on 19th one day, and it was 3:30 in the morning. Went up over these two really big hills by this water tower that I know very well now. And at the time I came to a T, and it was either go right or go left, and right was towards Highway 51 and left was Cottonwood headed north or headed south to 44th. And I mean, if you're a cyclist that's been here and done the event, like, you probably know that area, and it's red dirt, deep red, sick, unreal, great hills. And I mean, just from like the view of my headlights, I was like, whoa. So I came back the next day, and then I was like, if this continues on, like, we are in for a rowdy time. And now we know that it keeps going. The state of Oklahoma, we haven't even continues, doesn't it? We haven't even scratched the surface. We have a million ideas. We have a million places we could go. And now now the work is like just at our fingertips of like, how do we make this city really, really, really buzz into the transportation component of this, outside of the recreational and the race format. Like, how do we transition this conversation into, okay, now the interest is here. Are you paying attention? Sure. And now are we ready to put the money where our ideas and where our mouth is, and make this city exactly the way we all know it can be? Yeah. Because it's tiny and you can ride your bike anywhere. Oh yeah. And I mean that with all the love, because I want to live in a small place. You know, living in a big place with lots of infrastructure sounds really cool and beautiful, but like, so does not being able to just literally ride out from your front doorstep of work, 3 miles and you're in the dirt. Exactly. Perfect. Exactly. Because Oklahoma City, they tell us all the time, we don't have that. Tulsa, like, we got to drive 40 minutes, park on the side of the road, and then go for a ride. And it's like, here, you can meet at the shop. Then when you get done, you can go get a beer, get a burger, go to Louis, go to Zanotti's, do whatever, and take a shower at District, and then get back in your car and go home. So instead of driving 40 minutes, they might as well drive an hour and 5 minutes and then be in the best spot. Yeah. I think that's what I need to do with my training, because I'm in Yukon, and it's not hills. Like when I did my ultramarathon training, and then we got out here and I ran to that first hill, and I just looked, I was like,
Yeah, and you get past that first like 5 mile aid station, and then you just keep going up and down. And my buddy who's running with me, and he's a CrossFit guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it with you." Like we'd watched too many David Goggins videos. We're like, "Yeah, we can do anything." We hadn't run on gravel to train. What we did was run loops of my block, which was 6 mile loops. We did 3 or 4 in a row every Sunday leading up to it. So only did 18 miles on flat too.
Yes.
Yeah, he still hates me for that.
Yeah.
We got to a point, we got halfway, and he's like, "I'm gonna put my headphones in and I'll just be right here." I was like, "Okay, well," and the halfway point it got real kind of like big gravel as we were running in the ruts, and I just put my head down and I didn't see him. Like he just disappeared, so I kind of left him, but he still doesn't forgive me, but it's fine.
It's all good. You have to do what you have to. I
just kind of kept going, and I got to the finish. I texted him. I was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm a bit far behind." So I'd gone and like changed and like warmed up, and then sat in the truck, and then finally he showed up. I was like, "Come on, you can do it!" Yes. But he did it, which is awesome. That's all that matters. But yeah, I mean, talking about the race, that first race, like how long did it take you to build the route and everything, and how was all that? Because that's the infrastructure of trying to find the route.
The route is what we didn't realize at the time was how much there was, like, and we're still finding.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of help from some local people. I will not take all the credit for that first route or like any of this. I want everyone to know that like this thing is much more than the sum of one or two people's ideas. Things like this just don't happen on their own or with just one drive.
Yeah.
The first route, I was working with a guy named Adam Gribben, who was here in town, and Adam was just a fixture at the bike shop all the time. He was ex-military, he was done, he was going to school finally, like a non-traditional student after military, and Adam was just like, I told him about DK, and I had never been able to do DK while we were in Emporia, while I was working at the shop, because I only worked at the shop for that 1 year for late 09 till mid to late 10, so it was only like 9 months actually, and so then I worked at Verizon Wireless for a short bit, just so Crystal wouldn't have to go back to school and go back to work at ESU, so she could just be home with Emory, and so then we like cut ties with Emporia. Boom, we were here, and it was just like it was crazy. Anyway, so we're here and we're going, and I'm like, I have to go see these roads. And so I never got the chance at all because I never had the time to train. Like I never made the time. I needed to be at work at the bike shop that 1 year that I actually felt like I could do it in 2010. And so anyway, I finally had the time, kind of. I was going to do two a days, like the whole 2-a-day thing. So we were going to do 35 in the morning, work all day long, 8, 9, 10 hours, whatever it took, because it was just Crystal and I at the time, and we were just starting to hire a few people. So Austin, Sally's husband, Austin Roberts. So we had A1 and A2 because they had the same name. And so anyway, it was super fun. Shop in those days, the shop is still super fun.
Yeah.
But in those days, it was just like
super raw,
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't know how to run
real entrepreneur stuff.
I have no idea how to run a business still, actually. Everyone will tell you that. It's very true. So Adam and I just started riding together because I was throwing a Tuesday morning breakfast ride that was all pavement before I knew where the rides were, and Adam was the only one that showed up the first time. So Adam shows up on this long haul trucker, surly with panniers, and he's just like, you never know when you need to grab some ice and get some beers. I'm like, okay, well this guy gets it.
My kind of guy.
Gets it. And so then it morphed into like, all right, well, hey man, I'm doing this thing. I'm doing this DK 200. I'm doing the 200. I'm not messing around. And he was like, that sounds just wild enough that like I should do that, and I'll do it with you. And I'm like, okay, great. But we had some miscommunication because I think he thought that meant we would ride together, and I never, ever, ever had those words come out of my mouth. And I was in the same vein as you, like when it's time to go, I need to go.
Yeah, I can't stop. No. Like leg seize up and you're done.
It's a double century, and like I'm not here for anyone but me.
Yeah.
Like this is the day to be selfish. And so anyway, we just started riding all these roads, and then I told him about the idea, and then I came up with the original name, and And so like LR 100 was like happening. We're doing this. This is the space. This is the intent behind it. Like we want people to feel like feel like they're almost being transported back in time to the early 1900s when these roads potentially were created for the first time. And it was all very, very, very cool, man. Very, very cool. And we just kept going. We got some hints about Ingalls off 19th, and we were like, you need to check out Ingalls. You need to go look at it. And then as soon as you get on the other side of Ingalls, we affectionately call this other hill, we call it Jim's Blow Up Hill because of another friend that has done a lot of work in the middle years for our time frame right now, Jim Brewer. So we had Jim's Blow Up Hill, and then we kept going, and it just kept getting hillier and crazier and rowdier. And then we got down south to Kearney, Oklahoma, which if you don't know about Kearney, Oklahoma, I don't blame you. Nobody knows the name of that town. It's south of Perkins by like 12 miles. And it was our first halfway point. Yeah. And then after that, it was just more hills, more red dirt, more ruts. And yeah, man, I had 120 people signed up from 9 states and Canada. We've been international every single year because a friend of a friend has a buddy from Canada that has come every year, which is cool. Well, he came like the first 3 or 4 years, whatever. And then now we're legit international. But that first year, dude, I mean, Sally was at the halfway point in Kearney with me, waiting for Austin, her boyfriend at the time, and like, I mean, actually standing in the back of that little truck,
taking pictures
was I don't know, I'll never forget it. There was, I don't know why, but me and you and Craddock, our buddy Michael Craddock was there, who's been a super volunteer for a bunch of years too. Sorry, I'm dropping names that nobody knows, but they're very important to me.
They'll be listening.
And shout out MJ Craddock. Anyway, that first year was insane. We had no idea what was on our hands. No idea whatsoever. We closed the bike shop the day of the race because we didn't have enough people to run the shop and also run the race. And the people wanted to ride the race that were working at the shop. So we were just like, we'll just close it. And now, of course, it's our biggest sales day of the entire year. Well, the day before is really, but the day of the race is still massively huge. So the idea of like how we've evolved to make it work has not been an easy process and has been also like the greatest, successes of my life. And that first year, dude, it rained at mile 80 for most people.
Yep.
So the rain has been a part of this conversation since year one. And it was a 30 mile an hour sustained headwind out of the south. Yeah. For 59 miles, which we did a 59 mile checkpoint the first year. So you had to make it almost 60 miles with no water. And we had no oasis, nothing. Like we didn't have anything out there. And we also didn't have the Jeep Club. That hadn't happened
which
yet.
Which is huge now.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had 35 or I don't know. We had 25, whatever. We had 1 million Jeeps this year. Yep. It was crazy. And so the rain hits. Yeah. The craziest part is that at the crux of the very southwest corner of the race, mile 80, is where we really started to head back. So you really only got like 20 miles of true like tailwind. Yeah. But also the course was 107 miles the first year, which it's always been pretty damn close to that because it just should be. Because we had
it's 100 miles of gravel and then a few miles in town.
Yeah.
We have too much good stuff, but we can't cut it out. And we hit that turn. And the wind died because the storm front got here. So no one got a tailwind. So they fought this insane headwind the whole way to Kearney and then had no reprieve.
Looking forward to a tailwind. You're like, we'll do it. We can get there.
And then 13 or 14 people made it through without getting rained on. Wow. And everyone else got hammered.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, people were walking. And
carnage.
Anybody that had a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicle or a rack on it or a truck bed, I'll never forget, dude. Like they just scattered. They were just like leaving downtown. They're like, we'll go. And they're like, what's the course? We're handing maps out. Because that year we didn't have GPS. We only did course markings and we did maps. And you got the second half of the map. This is old school gravel. So you got the second half when you got to the checkpoint. Yep. So that way you could not cheat. You couldn't cheat at all. Nobody could cheat. And you had to get there to get the next piece. I really miss that. Yeah. We can't do that anymore because it just doesn't make sense logistically, especially with thousands of people. And we want to be environmentally conscious. Of
course.
So year one, what were your thoughts of year one?
It was cold. I was not dressed appropriately. That was a long time ago. I remember hanging out at Kearney, just waiting and trying to use this camera that I didn't really know how to use and trying to take good pictures and getting some. Yeah. But I really enjoyed just like watching. You could see people coming like up the road from like a mile away almost, and like watching them kind of
just see heads going up.
Or just little dots of color, and finally watching them come in, and they're just like so stoked to be there, and then they're like, oh, but we have to keep going.
This halfway point's great, but we have to finish.
Oh god, there's more. And then being back out here downtown and watching people finish, or like watching people get towed in because like their derailleurs are in pieces, and their drivetrains are just like that, and I had never experienced anything like that. I was just like, this is wild. Why are people doing this?
Why is everyone kind of smiling and happy?
Everyone's having a good time. Nobody's mad.
Yeah.
All right, I'll bite. And here I am.
When was your like first race?
My first race was
I guess distance race.
I attempted to do the second land run, and I had blown up my knee like a month or two before, and I just couldn't. I just couldn't go fast enough to get to the halfway point in time. So. That was my first attempt, and then in 2016 is when I actually did it and
did the finish, and it rained the whole time.
And it rained kind of off and on, but it was mostly just muddy. Which I have a photo that I took back to work with me when I worked at not here, and of me finishing, and someone saw it and was like, "Is that blood all over your legs?" I was like, "No, that's mud. That's red mud." And they're just like. It did not compute as to why I would do something like that. They just had no idea. And honestly, like you can't really explain it to somebody who hasn't been here and hasn't experienced it for themselves, because I don't know, there's just something about like working so hard and hitting that dark place like you were talking about earlier, just like that really just the utter rock bottom of your mental faculties, and then like coming back from it and
willing yourself out of it.
That's the real thrill, is like coming back out of it and being like, I can do this. This is awesome. And you've got that adrenaline rush and that high from finishing, and you just work so hard for something that for a patch.
I cherish the water bottles that we have in the. I mean, I use that and like and my towel as well. I think my towel is pinned on my wall.
Nice. It's a different color now, right?
Yeah. No. I did the run, didn't I?
That's right.
It was dry for me. It was
great.
Good. My towel's pinned on the wall. I need to just put it in a frame. Actually, it'd look really cool in a canvas frame. But like that dark place, it's. I had a rule that when I did the run that if I passed somebody, I'd never let them pass me again. Like if I got past somebody, I would never ever let them catch up with me. And it's such like it's almost kind of like a childish kind of embarrassing thing, the things that you say to yourself to keep you going. But I mentioned David Goggins earlier, and he just done like the 240 Moab crazy foot race or whatever, and he calls his thing taking souls. And he's like, I see someone in front of me, I want to take their soul, I'm gonna run past them. So the whole time I'm saying to myself, the last like 8 miles, like I'm gonna tell you, I'm just taking souls, like no headphones in, and I'm just like speaking to myself. And then I'm passing like this 45-year-old woman who's like, just like trucking along, and like I'm gonna kill you, I'm taking your soul right now. It's so weird. I like got across the finish, like it made the turn up there, and there was one guy that passed me like towards the end, heavier guy, ginger guy, and he just, I was like, I have nothing left, right? And this guy just comes past me. I'm just like so pissed off that this guy just passed me. And I made the turn, and I was like, I can see, I can hear you, and I can see the giant arches. I just went full Forrest Gump. I just like high knee sprinted, and I gave this like huge fist pump as I crossed the line. And I finished like in 6 hours and 30 minutes, and I was like, I don't care what people think. I've just done this, like, and I'm like, I need to sit down now. But you tell like people don't understand. You tell your friends, first of all, their question is, why are you doing that? Why are you running 50 kilometers? Why are you riding 100 miles? Like, why? But unless they've done it, you just don't get it, do you? And then you wake up the next day and you're like, okay, what next?
Everything hurts.
There's always something else, isn't it?
What next?
Yeah. And that's when I sat on my couch the whole day and just watched the what was the guy who was in the Land Rover? What was his name? Him and his dog.
Peter Vollers.
Yeah, and from Vermont Overland.
Yeah, in Vermont Overland.
And watched that all day.
So
it was amazing.
They're coming back.
Good.
Also, all of that footage, just in case anybody is interested, and I'm gonna spill the beans, but all of that footage is being repurposed with interviews from the top 4 women and the top 4 men and myself.
Amazing.
So we're going to retell the story of the race, and we're calling this the last gravel race on Earth.
Yeah.
And it'll be out in different episode segments after registration goes live through the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to watch it again.
Part. Watching the guys and then the commentary and then the photography was amazing.
They killed it.
My favorite shot is the one of Payson, and he's picked up his bike and he's just running up that hill. And that is my favorite shot of the whole time. I could not believe that.
I was watching that and I was just like,
and it's just, you can see his half of his body in the bike, and then you just see the distance.
Running with his bike.
We were in the finish.
In the mud.
We were in the finish line shoot, and 50 milers were coming in. And we were standing there, and someone showed it to us.
Yeah.
And we were just shoving it in each other's faces and watching it over. And because we were like, he is running away from Peter Stetina.
Yeah.
World Tour pro rider right now, a Red Bull athlete, a pro trek mountain biker, is about to maybe win our race for the second time in a row.
Yeah.
And again, let me please say, we don't really care about racing, but dude, that is super sick.
Well, to that point, like I went back and I watched, I think it was King of the Roads vlog or something from the first year. Oh, no, not the first year. The first year that Payson won.
Yeah, last year. So 2019.
It came to and it kind of, I paralleled it to golf, right? Because when you there's such a gentleman thing about golf, right? It's like, it's a man's game, gentleman's game, and I don't mean that as men and women. I mean that as you are a gentleman by the way that you act.
A gentle person.
Yeah, and just when they got to that stoplight and they just had a sprint, and I'm like, someone who's competitive would have just jumped the light and gone, right? No, there was none of that. There was we've just cycled 100 miles together, and now it's come to the last 150 meters. And it was the same thing when everyone got to the halfway point. I think there's a clip, and Payson looks over at someone who was in that pack, and he's like, "You got time? We'll wait for you until you catch up until we go again." I'm like, you don't get that in many sports. No, you just don't get it,
and it surprises me every time.
Oh yeah, just
how with as much stuff that's going on, right? You just don't, and they were cleaning and washing and redoing, and obviously now the halfway point of Perkins is like a town, right? The village of people who come out with the vans and the bike, whatever it is. But those two things for me were this isn't about racing as much as this isn't about winning. This is about the act of racing together and having a really good time. And the best man will win, but it's fair. And I just that those two things for me really stuck out.
That's so sick to hear someone else see that perspective.
I'm not a bike person at all.
Right.
That was just for me. That was okay, I see it now. That's sick.
It's something that exists in this world, and I don't know if it exists any other place in the cycling world, because I've never been fast enough to know or really been a part of any of those conversations. But when it's on the line for a national championship or UCI points or something like that, which is in the international cycling governing body, that type of stuff. It's different, but you see it. They talk about it in the Tour sometimes. I don't follow the Tour that much, like the Tour de France, but they talk about if someone's chain drops. One year, they were on this pass and they were climbing. They crested the pass, and then there was this unbelievable descent where they were hitting 70 miles per hour. And at the top, Andy Schleck was racing for Trek, and I remember it because we were really watching it. He dropped his chain, and everyone was talking about whatever component group he was running at the time and making a bunch of jokes about it, but I think it was Contador, and Contador didn't wait. And I don't actually remember if it was exactly those two guys, but I think it was. And Schleck needed to get off his bike and put his chain back on, and then it was over. There was no way that he was going to be able to make up that time. And so in cycling, there seems to be this very, very, very fair idea of are we really who is actually taking the win? And is it really because you're the best rider or because of circumstance and
someone else's misfortune?
Very pure, very pure, and I want that to stay in what we do so
and I
bad.
think, to that point, a lot of in the road cycling things, and even just in the amateur road cycling, there's kind of like this kind of stigma that, like, I put it like kind of like the wine community, right? If you drink wine, you know wine, and you're around someone who doesn't know wine, kind of like a bit of a snob sometimes, right? And then you see someone who's riding around Lake Hefner and they're full tri-bike and they're full suit, and like, you know, and I'm out there and I got bike shorts but a t-shirt, like, you give them a wave and they do not look at you. That is the stigma the bike.
No, for sure.
Not the gravel, but the gravel seems totally opposite to that. Gravel's like, where you going? Let's go together.
We're vehemently against the idea that you need to look a certain way, be a certain way, sound a certain way, ride a certain bike.
Yeah. Bikes are for everyone. Period.
Yeah.
Especially in our community.
Yep.
Like our community, like the thing that has sustained us this amount of time, in my opinion, that's given us like truly our identity and lifeblood is our Monday night ride. And like COVID is trying to kill it from a fun standpoint of us like being able to facilitate it through the bike shop, and the community is not allowing that to happen. So like we're not hosting it from the shop, but I know in the summer there were 40 plus people on Monday nights still happening, meeting a block south of the shop, and we're not. I'm dying to get back to normal. I'm dying to get back. I mean, obviously safely.
When was the last time you gave somebody a hug? Or could that cost to finish?
I mean, I did this year, and I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And this year, obviously, we won't be having hugs for sure, 100%. Like, this is the year for us to really do things correctly, and for me to actually adhere to the things that I say I am going to do, and be as safe as possible. Yeah. But like in the future, I mean, it will come back.
It will come back.
This is all very temporary.
It will come back. You're right.
It's obviously not as temporary as we all thought it was going to be.
Sure.
But like we're gonna put on an amazing event.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it together. And it's going to be unforgettable, just like every single
nuts.
other. Yeah,
so
completely nuts.
To that point, like, what, you know, obviously you guys did something different this year, right? I mean, thankfully for me, unfortunately, thankfully, depending on how you look at it, I won the raffle, so I have a free entry. Fantastic.
Yes.
But for people getting into it now, they used to just log on first morning and just click and hope for the best, right? Because so many people wanted to get into it.
Yep.
Now you guys have changed it up and doing a lottery system, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, we avoided it like the plague for a really long time. Bobby I think it would have killed him to do it before now.
I just really didn't want to do it at all, ever.
Yeah. It's less exciting.
Yeah. And is that because you have there are rules on capacity? Like,
you're
can't
looking
send
at
them in waves, or like, how does this?
You're looking at the decision-making team right here, and no, the demand on the website. The demand on the website on Bike Reg is outrageous.
Yeah.
And I hate the uncertainty of it. I don't want like crazy full control over like who gets in and who doesn't, but the demand is so high, and the chances are such a crapshoot anyway, that we feel like the way that we can best facilitate the diversity growth also is through this idea of a 24-hour randomizer. So I will not call it a lottery, because there is nothing that you can lose because you're not actually gambling. So I will not call it a lottery, because it isn't one, because you're not paying for something that you're not ever going to see a benefit from. Yeah. You will only be charged money if you are receiving something in return, and that is not a lottery. Yeah. It is a 24-hour randomizer that our randomizer robot will generate the names of over a week, that we will help it decide what that looks like.
So how many people are in the right, like, is
I think all told we're gonna 2,300
ish.
Yeah.
That's
we
mad,
shot for the moon. We tried to go big this year in 2020, and the universe was just like, no,
gonna
absolutely
give
not.
you everything.
We had more than 3,000 people registered to come.
3,250.
Yeah, we were ready. We had all the merchandise and all the things, and then.
So it's just infrastructure that's holding you guys back.
A little bit, but also like downtown Stillwater, I don't think we can get much bigger than what we tried to do.
Yeah.
And actually be able to like have the event
shut the
here.
Street,
Right.
All the rest of it. Or shut a block, right? It was the blocks you guys.
We had blocks.
Yeah, we had blocks. And
they're going to give us as much room as we want, really. I mean, we've had great meetings already with the city manager, with Norm McNichol, and I will say this: it was never the goal to be huge.
Okay.
No.
It would be the biggest.
Bigger is not better.
No.
Better is better.
Better is better. Yes. we don't want to lose this idea of inclusivity and of like genuine integrity.
Yeah.
And we want each person that comes here to feel part of the conversation. And if we hit 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 people, then what are we literally doing? Are we just moving people through some cattle?
Just a number
Thing? Or is it just another number? Is it just for us to like capture that dollar and like make money? Like, what are we actually doing? Well, what we actually want to do is create real change in people's lives from the moment that they know that they're coming into the event, that they're going to be here for the event, and then when they're actually here. And then on top of that, the conversation that I'm having right now with every single sponsor is, how much real social change do you want to put into motion and use our marketing arm and your marketing arm to actually do that?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? So like the goal is real change, actual, what's it actually look like? Not to get rich, not to pump this gravel cow and steal all of its milk until it's dead and dries up and goes away. How do we keep this thing relevant? How do we keep it beautiful, intentional, and also like not exploit it by the end of the day? Like Benjamin,
because it would be very easy to do that.
Benjamin from Wayne's World, like Benjamin from Wayne's World is the worst example of exploitation on the planet. So like, you've seen Wayne's World and you know Benjamin, who I'm talking about, and he comes in and he talks them into selling out for $5,000 a piece. And then all of a sudden they're sitting in a studio and they're looking at their basement, but that's not Wayne's basement. Like, no, I don't want people to sit here and look at the finish line of Mid-South and say, it looks like Mid-South, it sounds like Mid-South, but it's not.
But they've sold out or whatever.
It's not anymore. Yeah. So like, we don't really need anyone's help. We're doing a great job on our own. And we're also listening to what our consumer base wants. And what our consumer base wants is real, genuine experience. So that's what we're going to give them, as long as we have the power and as long as we keep our heads on straight. And she has helped me in times that I have gotten out of hand and out of line with my idea of where we could go or what we could ask a sponsor for. And I've helped her be like, hey, like, you know, the consumer is our number one priority. Like, we got to remember that. Like, Sally's probably been the most unrealized. Like, I didn't realize how badly I needed this person and her brain and her guidance and her and like, she's seen how like we're very similar and how she's like, well, I have to step up and like be this person because well, Bobby and I may have the same viewpoints, but actually I need to like not do what I would normally do and make a different decision. So like, anyway, thanks. It's been wild for both of us.
I'm sure.
And Crystal is very much a part of this too, like in the biggest way possible. She runs the halfway point. She also runs all operations of the shop the whole week while I am not available in any way, which is normal anyway. So
you've either got a microphone in your hand or a bottle of champagne, but you're running around somewhere.
Amen.
When we did the run, I was up here that morning, and then just to see how different, like just from watching social media the next day, how different the mornings were. You know, like you got guys training, like warming up in their vans, like they got their bike set up in the back of the van and they're warming. I think it was I watched the Star and Seal video. Kai, who's the local guy who was, you know, had a really rough race and had to bow out, but just following him, what he's doing now, going to college and stuff and racing, that's really cool. I'm looking forward to having him on the podcast when he comes back to town.
I can't wait.
And it's just so cool to see this thing happen and these guys. But I mean, that weather must have been. It looked terrible from people's videos and stuff. But actually being here, thunder and lightning and pouring rain at, you know.
Yeah, that was rough.
Delaying the start and everything, like. Mentally, for you guys, obviously you got to, you know, do all your work and set people off. But you know, for guys who like are just trying to mentally get their heads around. Like riding 100 miles and then it's raining, you know, it's freezing cold.
What were you
I really hope it's dry next year.
Where were you standing? Because we weren't even in the same place.
I was everywhere. I was running around like a wild person.
Because you had to make that decision to delay it.
Yeah, we've never had a rain delay.
Yeah,
we've never
lightning delay, I guess.
Never not been at literally 8 a.m. sharp on the nose. Never.
I think I was mostly like watching the weather and trying to make sure that like we could start in 15 minutes like we said we would.
Yep.
And then trying to make sure that everybody knew we weren't starting at 8.
Yeah.
And God, I don't know.
When you earlier you mentioned the Jeep Club.
Yeah.
Like how much help were they this year? I'm sure they were tremendous help. And every year
They're
it rains,
wonderful.
but you know,
We
just
owe
to have
them
them
so
lined
much.
up outside on the street, you know, like
It's the coolest.
So many of them.
And there's nothing we literally at this point in time can't. We stress this. We have a couple of meetings with them. One true like big meeting where we do pizza night and we do beer and stuff at the shop, and we just initiate the new people by giving them horror stories, and then also just tell them like we cannot do this without you. Like we literally, you are a key to this event that and actually we have all these other ideas of how we can relieve the pressure off of them too. So like we've got more ideas for shuttles and bike racks that need to be built to specifically move like 15 people at a time. And so we've got a lot of more work to do, because as we grow, the potential for this to happen every year of rain is 100%.
Right.
Like, honestly, like, we're planning
Absolutely.
for the worst every time.
Yeah, second weekend of March or whatever it is, like it's
And so
prone to bad weather.
I caught flack from all these sideliners on the coasts this year about my post on social media about asking people if they would come help bring riders back to Stillwater so we could shorten the trips for the Jeep Club to get them to a warming space, which was an incredible liability to get people off the road, keep them away from hypothermia, and get them to a warm space. And so, I mean, I asked for that, and of course it was all in the vein of COVID, but it was also all in the vein of like, they were like, yeah, they're asking people to like give strangers rides, and I'm like, this is all still brand new information to us
as well.
But it's also a need, and then it's also like, no, we don't like not have our ducks in a row. It's just way worse than you could ever dream. So like if you've never put on a race and you've never put on a race that's like this, like please keep your mouth shut. Yeah. Because you actually have no
You're
idea
always
what
going
you're
to get
talking
people
about.
saying that. And also it was so early on in the whole COVID situation, right? I mean, it was like, you know, the second weekend of March or whatever, and we just realizing what was happening, and we'd seen the world news, but it hadn't really come to the States
But
that
like
much.
literally, I will say this with confidence. There's no way that we would have been in as deep of controversy if the Utah Jazz player in Oklahoma City and canceled all the NBA for all the people.
Friday before.
It was the Wednesday before. It was Wednesday night at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And I was laying on that rug in this next room in Sally's office, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. And she was like,
did you think that it would be the last race?
100%. We thought we were going to have to cancel the entire.
We thought the city was going to shut us down,
and the state, or the federal government.
Yeah. But so you thought, I mean, if we do this, it is probably going to be the last race of the year then.
We didn't, I mean, kind of, but we also didn't know what to think. We didn't know if this was going to be like, okay, this is over in a month. We just had, there was so little information coming out, and it was all coming so fast at the same time that we just had we couldn't think further ahead. We could think, okay, how do we get to Saturday? And if we are not getting to Saturday, what are we doing? And how are we taking care of that situation?
Yeah, because everyone was here.
People were already here. People were in the air. People were on the road.
Right.
And I mean, even if we had canceled, people still would have shown up and ridden on Saturday anyway.
They just showed up. You're right.
So,
which would have been pretty cool.
It would have been cool, but also really stressful.
Very stressful, and like the kind of questions of liability, all sorts of stuff. So
the rate. I mean, back to like this year's race. Another thing that came to my mind. You talking about the Jeep Club and everything. Like, was that point that Payson gets to that. Like, I ran through that water bit where he had to get off his bike. I ran through that the day before, and it was not bad at all. Like, we ran through. It was fine. It was maybe over my shoes. It was okay. And then to see him go, and he just like looks at the guy with the UTV, and the guy's like, I haven't been through there yet. I don't know how deep it is. He's like, oh, okay, I'm jumping off my bike, and he's like dunking his bike in the water. And I screenshot and I sent it to Gan, who I ran with, and I was like, do you remember running through this? And he's like, yeah, it's like waist height now.
Yes.
But I mean, what, you know, and then Hannah as well, like
unreal.
Going to catching back up with Hannah and seeing her, and then watching her interviews with the Orange Seal stuff, and like, I literally ran out of food, I ran out of everything, and then seeing her like shivering as she finished finished across finish line, and she's eating that cheeseburger with mud all over her hands.
I know. I was like, somebody wash your hands. How can we help you?
We were both standing there just like, is this really happening?
It's such a raw, like,
it was great. I mean, I can only speak for myself because I only know what I was feeling in those moments, but I was feeling all at once, like, am I being too excited for these people as they've just poured their entire souls out into this race? Do they want me to be stoked that they won and that they finished, or like, am I being the most annoying little brother?
Any energy,
Like, I have no idea, even though I'm older than them, actually, which is weird in my mind but I am. And anyway, it's like, I felt weird, and I also knew like what Payson was going through with losing his friend from Durango very early, like very right before.
It's
just, there's just so many emotions at the finish line.
Yep.
And it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop all day. And people tell me things about their lives that you'll never imagine, like about their families, or
even the guy that ran to the race from Tulsa.
Yeah, dude.
Right? Like, he ran from Tulsa and then did the run, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did the 100. He did the double. He did the double. The double is what I'm calling it, even though it's not the double. But we'll just call it the double because it's insane.
There's so many little stories.
There's so many, man.
It's just, what a place. Like, and I'm so pumped that you guys are making like a video series for it.
We are.
That is.
And this is just the beginning.
Content.
I say this every year, and Sally's always like, man, can we just like get a handle on all the things that we already said we were going to do?
Yeah.
But like, no,
But it's grown every single year.
We have incredible stories to tell. Incredible stories to tell. And I want to tell every single one of them. And not just the front, not just the middle, not the back, but like all of it. And I don't know how we can do that. But that's like, if there's a long-term goal.
It's easy.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's true. And maybe we
Zoom call.
And Sally's done
people
every week. We still need to get that live. Like, you've done podcasts. I've done podcasts.
Good, but...
No, I mean, anyway, we have a lot of content and stories to tell. And that's the other thing is, like, we have stories that we don't even know that are going to get told.
Right.
And that's exciting.
Yeah. That's the exciting.
That's the thing that makes me most excited to keep doing this year after year after year after year, is that it's incredibly life-changing every time. Mm-hmm. Every time. For you, for the participant, but man, 100%.
Yeah, because you get to, I mean, we don't know these stories unless you tell the stories that have been told to you, right? And you get one person come up to you that may not know anyone else at that. Like, I didn't know anyone at that race this year.
That's so sick.
You know, me and my buddy were there, and that's it.
It was your first time. It was your first time
ever. Didn't know absolutely anybody.
Sick.
And you know, and I'm like, now I just have this connection with these people that raced that day, with the people that were here that weekend. Like, just. You know, and I come back and, you know, I got my patch or whatever. And even if I'm out riding on my bike and I've got my Mid-South bottle and I was like, well, you're at the Mid-South. Like, I did the run. I haven't ridden yet, but I am. You know, just little things like that. It's just like that badge of honor and that little, like, that community that now you're a part of. And it's just going to grow every year.
What'd you think of just like the event as a whole, like the infrastructure and like everything?
I mean, parking's great, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the best. Like, driving to Stillwater, and you're like, where am I going to park? That's like when you do a marathon, like, well, run a half marathon or what, 5K, whatever it is. Like, you park miles away, and then you walk in. Like, I parked down the street, and I was like, this is like perfect.
Yes, because people have bikes, so they usually stay at their Airbnb or their hotel, and they ride their bikes down, and that's why we have all the big A-frames for bike.
One thing I wish I would have done, and I hope that I get to experience it whenever COVID disappears or whatever it is, but I didn't come up the night before the race.
Yes.
I wish I'd have done that. And like rented a van or had a Airbnb, because we drove from the city. Here, right? We didn't really
tons of people
stay.
do that.
Yeah.
But I wish I would have had stayed, and you know, whether it's sleeping in the back of a van or getting a hotel or whatever it is, like that, bringing in the entire weekend instead of just like showing up, doing the race and going home. I wish I'd have been here. The race is just a small part of it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have been here for everything. So that's my goal going forward, is to really take in the entire weekend.
We pride ourselves hardcore on the extracurriculars.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk more about activations pre and post.
Yep.
For special things that we're putting on, for things that the sponsors want to do. But it's all.
Well, you launched the beer this year.
Yeah. So this is the fourth time we've done the beer.
Yeah.
I mean, this was just this year's iteration of the can. So this is our third can. So we've done a can 3 years in a row, and then we had a beer with no can and just had big growlers with Iron Monk. So that's a whole nother long story. I won't go into it, but no, I mean, we get to go throw the hops into the brew every year.
Yeah.
So Sally and I are there, and then we also help can, and we usually get a super day morning drunk whenever it's canning for the first time. It's great.
It's like, that pop has stopped.
So, but this year we
We'll
released.
take care of that one.
Yeah.
We released a bike made specifically for events like Mid-South that we've been talking with Salsa about for like 2 years.
Which was the gold one, right?
The Storm Chaser. Yeah. And so like all the details.
Was that single gear?
Single speed. You can put gears on it. It comes with a hanger to put a derailleur on if you want. It's aluminum as a carbon fork. It has absolutely tons of tire clearance. The bike it's perfect.
Yeah.
It is I don't want to ruin my normal bike that I ride most of the time. I won't even put a price tag on it, but whatever bike it is your go-to bike, and then you can have this thing instead at whatever $1,500 complete, and it's incredible. And anyway, we found out that it was for sure happening in June of last year when I was in Steamboat with a bunch of customers doing a Moots thing, and I was like, man, is this real life? Like, I'm at Moots with customers doing a private camp thing around their ranch rally event that they always do, and Salsa's calling me, telling me that this is actually happening, and we're making a bike for Mid-South. Which we didn't even have the name change yet. It was still our old name at the time, and so it was pretty wild. And I was very glad that we hadn't decided to put any branding on it, because that would have been risky. Because they didn't know about the name change until we were already pretty much set. Very close to being set. Yeah, man. Anyway, it's just crazy. Like, this year we don't know what all that stuff looks like. We're talking about virtual versions of a lot of things, of live music, of beer can release party, of writers meeting, which is normally
outdoor, totally socially distanced.
Yeah. We're just trying to look at this from a global perspective and not be ignorant to anything that's going on. And like, I give tons and tons and tons of credit to Sally for that, because I keep my nose to the ground a lot, and it's not that I'm ignoring it, it's just that there's a lot going on in this brain, and it normally isn't what
you're
is
also
happening.
running a business.
I mean,
right?
two businesses.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you for like being on top of it, because
You're welcome.
it's not an easy thing to
It's my job.
stay on top of.
So wrapping this up, for everyone listening and watching, where can they go sign up and getting the randomizer and be able to do that? The bike shop as well. Where can they, if they want to buy a specific Mid-South bike for Salsa, all that, like what?
Yes.
Where do they go? What do they do? How can they go? All that stuff.
District Bicycles, downtown Stillwater, Oklahoma. If you can't get here, we can ship it. So whatever you want, call the bike shop. 405-372-7319. For real. Like, if you want a bike,
A little ad.
call the shop. Crystal, Tyler, Austin, myself, somebody will answer the phone. Seth, Charlie, we got a new guy, Charlie from Green Bay. He just moved down. He's incredible. He's going to be there for a while. Group rides are still happening organically. We're not posting them again, but they're happening. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we had a group of 18 from Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and we didn't know any of them except Kelly that put the ride together, and then my other buddy CK from Tulsa. And it's like,
that's great.
I had no clue.
Coming in.
It was insane. It was the coolest thing ever. I was coming in for my ride in the morning, and they were all leaving, and I was like, I don't know any.
I think I saw that in your story.
Yeah,
you were
I know.
Passing, you're like, oh hey, I know someone.
And I was like, what? And then I get down here by the shop, and there's like all these SUVs with bike racks, and it's just the coolest thing ever. I hope the city of Stillwater's paying attention. Sales tax dollars are happening, and it's not just happening during the race week. It's so cool. Registration, actually, I'll let Sally talk about, like, everyone before registration even becomes an idea. People need to know about the COVID protocol, and you can talk about that.
So, last year we had about half the field defer. And so they will get to sign up beginning November 1st to November 8th. 6th, sorry.
11:59.
And then it'll open up to just whoever wants to register, and then we will choose. We'll let whoever in, and the randomizer robot will let whoever in.
Have you named the randomizer robot yet?
I mean, Randy,
Ronald.
and then
John J.
And then we will announce who gets in the following Saturday, the 14th.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. But this is very important. To register, you have to acknowledge that you've read our COVID safety protocol page on our website.
Drafted by Sally
me.
Turner.
And that you're going to follow local and state mask ordinances. That's very important. I will come and yell at you in a very nice way to put your mask on.
That is one thing that came in handy this year too. It's this year's little neck thing.
Yep. We're gonna have the gaiters again. We'll have bandanas and But, at this point, everybody kind of has a mask, so bring it with you. But yeah,
Awesome.
That's
And then
where it's
everything's
gonna
at
go. Yeah.
Mid-South.
Oh, so we will have links on midsouthgravel.com, but Bike Reg is our registration platform that we use. They've been great, and we're stoked to do it again this year. They're working with us very closely to make the randomizer situation happen. And
Bike Reg, bikereg.com/mid-south. The Mid-South. The Mid-South. Yep. That's how we have. But it'll be all over social media.
Yeah, it will be everywhere. You can't get away from it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys sharing some stories, and I know there's hundreds more, and I can't wait to see the videos and the stories from the guys who won and raced and the girls, and like I am like nervously excited about racing in March, and I need to get my training on and get my legs in some shape, and also buy some wet weather rain gear just in case. But no, I really appreciate it. For everyone listening, I'll put the links in the description down below. You can go and sign up, or you can just within COVID rules, come up, hang out, follow on social media. I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of posts and great stories about it. But yeah. And I'm so excited. Like it's hard to put it into words, but it's gonna be awesome. So
your excitement makes it all feel like 100% worth it. So thanks.
Appreciate you guys coming on, and we will. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This podcast was presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, who've been telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof. Catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.